Hello guys and welcome to a new video from Rascal Tech, and today we have the new Durafly Goblin. And I'll tell you a funny thing about this plane, I'm all into my EDFs, but as soon as I saw this pop up on the Hobby King website, I just had to grab it. So here we go. This is the unboxing. Very simple, and I reckon it says that you can build this in about 20 minutes, but I took my time. So we're going to start off with the main fuselage. Very easy to get out of the plastic. Just make sure that you just mind the prop as you pull the plastic off the side. Look at that. The finish on it is quite great as well, I must admit, and all the details look quite nice. Next up we got the wing. Same again, just going to pull it out, just cut the side quickly, pull that off to the side, bin that. Look at that. Look at the finish on that. That's great. I'm kind of glad that I went for yellow, to be fair, because as the people that have reviewed this so far have said, that this plane does get small very fast. So just showing you a quick shot of the ball links that we're going to have to remove as well. They do supply the linkages. So next we've got the rudder. Same again, we're just going to cut the side there, pull that out of the bag, job done. Quality finish throughout. All the parts look great. I haven't seen any marks or anything. So it looks like it all got shipped fine. Now onto the elevator. I'm quite happy with the build quality of this. For 85 quid, don't think you could really go wrong. I know it's got its gripes. I know everyone's not that happy with the center of gravity, and I'm hoping that I can get it bang on for the maiden, because I really don't want to try and mess around with this tail heavy, because it's going to end up in some spare parts. So as you can see here, these are the linkages that are supplied, so we're going to remove the ball linkages for them. And this is the quick sheet. What I'm going to say is, now do not go for the recommended throws. Everyone who said 6mm is the absolute maximum. Anything more than that and you are probably going to crash the plane. So I'm probably going to dial it down to about 3mm, 4mm max, and then we'll go from there. So let's lay that down. Let's go grab the wing. So what I like to do is, I always like to do a dry fit first. Dry fit everything together just to make sure that it fits, because you don't want to put this together, or any plane together, or start putting it together, get it all glued up, try and make it fit, and then you find out that it doesn't fit and you've got a couple of bits that you just need to cut, or this might need sanding. So overall, as a dry fit, this is very easy to put together. Like if you wanted a speed build, you could probably get this built in about 20 minutes. Slide it in at the bottom there, and then we're just going to push down and in, and there you go. So that's the rear on. And now we're going to try and put the wing on. Just make sure that you remove the piece of tape holding the servo extension wires, and just kind of push that into the middle, just so you can get a better dry fit, because if not, it's going to impact with the bottom of the plane, so you're not going to get a nice fit. So then we're going to pull that off again. Overall, I'm quite happy with the dry fit. I did try to remove it with my finger and a small set of pliers, but as you can probably see in the video, that did not work. Yep, so I just gave up, run down to the garage, grab myself another pair of pliers. So we're going to hold that nice and firm and then very lightly remove it. I'm going to save you guys some time of having to watch me do it. It did take me about 5 minutes per one, so I'm just going to skip through this. So on to the next one. Same again. Just going to remove that. Cool, now we're onto the wings. So it's going to be the same method again. I'm going to use the pliers to grip one end and then going to use the smaller pair of pliers just to get on the end of that nut because I didn't find anything within my garage that could undo anything that small. I've got a 4.5, I think it was a 4.5 mil, and yeah, that was even too big for it. So I reckon this is down to about a 2.5 or maybe possibly 3 mil nut on this. So, but I will mention, be very careful when you are doing this with your plane, because if you slip off, you can stab it, you could break the wing, you know, you could damage it. I did actually poke the wing, but it didn't actually damage it too much. So, you know, if you've got a better way, do that. If not, you know, my method is okay, but I wouldn't really recommend it. So now we've got them removed on both of the wings, we're now going to attach these onto the plane. Now what I'm going to say here is I did put the little silicone bits on last. I would recommend you put that onto the control rod first before you put these on, because trying to get it over it was a bit of a pain, as you will probably see later on in the video where I've just edited myself out, spending 5 minutes trying to get it over the end. Because I know you can just clip the ends together, which will make it smaller, it will slide over, but you can probably only open and close them a limited amount of times before the actual little clip decides to give in. And that's what the silicone's there for, to also help in the event that that happens. I've actually found it easier to just remove the linkage itself and then just get a pair of pliers on it when it gets a bit tight, and then screw it in, and then you can put it against the servo and sort of eyeball how many turns you need. You know, I'd like to mention that the servos aren't 100% centered, so when I get this all plugged in for a test, I'm then going to remove the linkage. So I haven't actually clipped these together yet, they've just been seated within the control horn. And now we're on to the rear, so it's going to be the same again. I do find it a lot easier just to get a pair of pliers, or well, needle nose pliers to be exact, to just secure that. Just makes it a lot easier as you're trying to remove the old ball joint linkage bits. And then we're going to replace it with the control clevises. So now we're just going to screw this on. I'm basically screwing this down so it's at the same height as the ball joint linkages, but as you'll probably see later on in the video, it definitely needed to go down a further bit more. But instead of screwing it down further, I just loosened it up around the servo and then push the rods down, as you'll see later on. So that's one done. Now we're just going to secure on the second. Try and screw that down so it's the same height as the one opposite, as you can see here. You know, it's just rough at the moment. And up next, now we're going to start gluing. So for this, I'm just going to use some foam safe CA. Probably could have sanded down the mating surfaces here, but because of the fit, I reckon that will be alright. So, not putting on too much. I'll actually just get a nice little bit on there and then just use the tip of it just to kind of spread it around a bit. Then we're going to do a nice fit here. So we're going to fit these two together, let that kind of tack up a bit. I'm going to put that aside, and then I'm going to start cracking on with the plane in a minute. A little tip that I would like to say is when using CA, you know, just clean it up afterwards, just so you don't get any runs. As you can see, I like to use a nice little cotton bud, just run that down the side. So now my plan is to run the servo wires for the wings up through the middle, so I can complete a test of all the electronics before I glue everything together, because once it's together, you know, I don't really want to be taking this apart again. So we're just going to push that up through the middle, grab it through the other end, just firmly pull it, not too hard, so we don't want to break anything. You know, give that a little wiggle, and then we're going to do a nice little dry fit once again. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect because we're literally just going to be connecting everything together just for the purpose of testing. So here I've got the LemonRx. This is the 6RX. This is the 6-axis gyro-enabled receiver. It's a great bit of kit. I haven't actually used the 6-axis one. I've got the 3-axis in one of my other planes. This 6-axis was in the FMS Viper, but for now I've just pulled it out, stuck it in this plane, and I'm going to order myself another one for that. So we're going to set this up with a DX8. Very simple. You know, if you've bound planes before, it's the simplest thing in the world when it goes right. As you can hear there, it's connected. Lovely. So I'm just going to disconnect the battery. I'm going to turn off the remote. Wait for that to turn off. I'm going to turn it back on and disconnect the binding cable. So that's great. Everything's plugged in, it's working. It's time to get everything disconnected and glued together. Going to be using some foam safe CA. Going to apply a nice run around each side, and I'm just going to use the tip just to spread it out evenly. And I'm making sure that I get the corners of the wing as well. So I'm just running it around. Nice little bit there. There we go. Nice and simple. I'm just going to use a cotton bud once again along the run just to kind of get rid of and evenly spread out any sort of leftover residue from the CA. I'm just going to put that aside, and then we're going to move on with the rear section of the plane. So a little bit of CA, apply it to all of the mating surfaces. Then I'm going to use the cotton bud here just to spread it around, so I get a nice even coat across the whole part. And then as you saw in the dry fit earlier, it's going to be exactly the same again, top down, and then we're going to push. Go a nice little run over all the edges again. Just clean that up. Make sure that there's nothing running. Now we're going to fit the landing plate, or the belly landing skid plate to be exact. And to be fair, any plane that doesn't have landing gear, anytime you land it, is technically a controlled crash. So we're just going to spread the CA nice and evenly across the edges, and then I'm just going to use whatever's left over just across the middle part. Going to place that down firm. Then whilst holding the bottom of the model, I'm going to just push down across the top. So now we have the plane all glued together. It's a good sign that everything's still working, so I don't want to pull it apart just for the sake of something coming loose. So yeah, now I've got the servos centered. I'm just going to pull the control horns off again, as I did need to turn this maybe 1 or 2 more turns just to get the surface completely level. This did take me a while, so I've kind of skipped through. Clip that on, and then on to the next one. Same again. Did need to do a couple more turns on this one. Well, to be fair, that was half a turn. Clip that on. Just double check that that's centered. Pull that back off again. Give it a couple more turns. And then, as you can see, that is perfectly level. So now we're just going to clip that on. So that's both sides done and perfectly level. And now we're going to center the rear elevator fins. So that's one attached. Going to move on to the other side. So that's the second side clipped on. And then later on, I'm going to adjust them by the servo. That bit there. So this is how I'm going to fit my LemonRx receiver. So I'm going to mark the top plate here, Sharpie, just mark it there. Then I'm going to get myself a cutting knife. You know, be careful when you do cut this, because if you slip, you're going to slash your finger open. Let's go remove some more material. Do another test fit. I did have to go down quite deep because initially the servo would have been in the way of the hatch. So I just cut away a little bit more and then made a simple bit of balsa, cut that up just to fit on the inside there. Now you could fit this with CA, you could fit it with whatever you like. I just went for a little bit of hot glue just so I got a nice, quick, easy and secure fit. So I'm just going to apply hot glue to 3 sides. And then I'm going to fit it accordingly. As you can probably note as well, I have run the servo wires out the back. And because of the length of them, once they are plugged in, they are going to be nice and away from the elevator servo. So I haven't got anything to worry about there. So I'm just going to apply a little bit of glue to the corners, nothing too heavy. I just want a nice secure fit, you know, I don't want anything coming loose or vibrating loose, causing the gyro to have a spasm mid-flight. As you can see there, it's nice, it's glued. Great, now let's move on to the LemonRx. And now I usually use double-sided foam tape, but I don't have any left over, so just for the sake of it now, I'm just going to apply 2 small dots of glue to either sides. I'm just going to firmly press it against the pulsar plate. That should give us a nice secure fit. Now I'm going to move on to connecting the servos and the ESC. Very simple, 3 plugs. So the LemonRx is nice and secure, and the servo wires are out of the way of the rear elevator servo. So all in all, this is nearly finished. On to the next bit. So we're just going to do a quick fit, just make sure that the hatch fits across the top. So the gyro is working, everything's working as it should, and I'm just going to show you why I've fitted a 6-axis gyro. This is the difference between a 6-axis. So right now it's in 3-axis mode. It knows it's upside down. If I flick onto 6-axis, the plane will then try to rotate itself. So as I now flick it over to the right side up, now all the control surfaces are flat. So that's what I'm probably going to call as a lifesaver when I eventually lose sight of this thing in the air. So here I'm just measuring the control rates. I ended up just turning the servo throws down within the actual controller itself. That's very simple. So I'm going to follow the CofG recommendation of around about 45 millimeters from the leading edge. So we're going to mark it there. Going to measure again, mark it there. Put a couple of lines in. Once I've drawn them, I'm just going to measure them again. So we've got 45 mil and then another 45 mil. Going to use some lead weights. This is probably the moment that everyone has been waiting 25 minutes for. The lead. Initially, I used 30 grams of lead and it looked like it balanced okay, as you'll probably see in a second in the video. It looked like it balanced okay, but after watching other honest reviews, hearing people use, you know, surplus of 80 grams in the nose, I reckon I'm going to pull these weights out and possibly, actually no, I'm going to leave these weights in and I'm going to add a further maybe 40 grams. So this is how the plane balances. It's got a 1300 milliamp 4S pack in the front, 30 grams of weight in the nose. But I actually had an idea. So instead, what I did was, as you can see, I've marked with a Sharpie 2 little black marks. That's basically stopping the battery from moving any further forward. So I just decided to cut that out, as you can see here. So yeah, I've trimmed that out, and this allowed me to move the battery probably forward about another 10 mil, and then you have to cut out the top as well. So I marked it again and then cut out the area there. So this was actually stopping the battery from going further forward as well. Just showing you a nice close-up of how much material's actually been removed to allow the battery to move forward another 10 mil. And here's a top shot of how much further forward the 1400 milliamp packs now sat in. And doing this actually allowed me to get the CofG bang on the 45 degree marker with about 30 grams of lead. So we're just going to finish it up now. Picked up a hard drive. Just shows you how strong the magnets are. So everything's ready, everything's fitted, working. I'll leave this to dry completely and then hopefully take it from Maiden over the next couple of days. Hopefully the weather gets better. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you for the Maiden. Goodbye.